Hello.
And we're back.
How you doing, man?
Good, what's up?
Not much. Drinking some cold brew? Don't tell anyone. Not too much.
What did you think of this episode as a whole? What was your thoughts?
I don't know. I mean, at this point in the run, they must have known we're not coming back, you know? Like, they must have known that this is the last where anyone's ever going to see of this TV show. One interesting thing about it is that in lieu of the original pilot, which was focused on his explicit sobriety and becoming a better person and blah, 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 this is the only episode that deals with something around that about substances. It never explicitly says, I'm sober. Like, he never says that. He just says, I used to party hard and now I don't. But it's the only one where it's like thinking about that kind of relationship with who he used to be. It's the closest thing to it. And so it's interesting that it was the original pilot and this is the last episode of the show.
Yeah,
but,
and this is the one that actually tackles with the mentor thing that he had mentioned. That was like part of the themes he wanted to do is like, there's no good mentors, like no one's perfect. And also the drug stuff, it like actually probably is like a synthesis of finding a way to bring what the show was supposed to be in the first iteration into what it became when it got over to Fox.
He never like identified as like a sober comedian, in that regard. And I think part of it was maybe because his style up until most recently, it was always very presentational. He was always like, I think some would argue that that's a flaw. I would not, because I think that's what I prefer. I'm not necessarily going to a comedian to hear about who they are confessionally. And I thought he's a very good joke writer, so it was fine. And like all of the times he mentioned being or not doing drugs it was like the incongruity of like, I look like a choir boy, but I used to be like into coke and like alcohol and stuff. Like, that's crazy, and like it's the funny like contrast to that. And then he would just tell like a crazy drunk story, which anyone can tell. Like, people who still drink will tell crazy drunk stories on stage, and then there's a minute where you like start associating it with like, my sponsor said this, or I went to rehab, or I did this, or I went to AA or something. Then it becomes like a part of you. Then you're like capital S sober comedian. And so, and I think that was maybe something he very consciously tried to avoid, because that wasn't necessarily the type of guy he wanted. He wanted to be Seinfeld, he didn't want to be fucking, I don't know, Richard Pryor, if I'm able to compare the two.
There's a comment on the episode of this podcast that has the most views. I think it's the Pete Holmes one.
Yeah.
And someone's like, I never found Mulaney funny. I think he's like pretentious. And then I responded to it, which is kind of like I don't know if you saw. I'm not like trying to read my own response.
Yes.
But it was just like, I like that because I like that he's trying to do a performance. This like, it is such a variation from the guys who all want to be Louis, and then you have Mulaney over here on his own island, where it's like Louis is like, in a way that's kind of cool, trying to make it seem like he's just in the moment, like speaking about these things, even though they're obviously rehearsed bits that he's done before and knows where it's going. But like Mulaney is like, no, this is a show, and like if you don't like, I think like a lot of younger people or newer stand-up fans that are more used to something like Shane Gillis or like someone in like that Rogan sphere of comics is more interested in like something a little more confessional and a little more personal, a little more like a guy that's not doing that. And they might be a little bit unpalated to a guy like a, I don't know, like a Bob Hope. Like, he's such a throwback while also talking about these things. I mean, he's just undeniably compared. You can't help but compare him to someone like Richard Pryor. Yeah. Because of that, like, I mean, I actually had like a recent kind of like, oh, there's so much Richard Pryor I haven't heard. And I went back and listened to it, and it is such like this is kind of like confessional in that early stage of being like trying to relate to someone personally while you're the only one talking on a stage in a suit kind of thing. I think that is kind of cool. And I don't know, I just think like Mulaney, when he finally did the turn and did it on Baby J, he was like, it was like, oh dude, this is like nougaty chocolate. It had been like we've been waiting for the confessional Mulaney, and when it comes out, it was like, oh my god, it's like sex with someone when you wait till marriage. It was like, oh, we waited till he relapsed to like get these like deeper flavors of him, which are great. Don't make your face. I know what I did.
No, I mean, I'm only sex before marriage, and then you never touch him after again. But we'll cut that out. That doesn't make any sense. So,
I edited it, so
okay,
I'll decide.
good point. No, well, I think you're right. I also think what's funny is like it does kind of go back to just in terms of like literally the delivery. You know, like Louis' delivery was such that was like kind of I think perfected the idea of like I'm just your boy. I'm just kind of saying this. You know, even though as you said it was very clearly like rehearsed, like it's not like a thing he's like he knows all the tricks, he's admitted this. And then you look at someone like Shane, who's like the biggest guy right now, and it's similar. It's the vibe he's trying to cultivate is like I'm just hanging out, or just and also like I'll see comments under stuff like under like all the like crowd work comedians now and like people who've blown up, or like even someone like Stavros, who I think has good bits outside of the crowd work, but like you'll see people being like, I love your style, man, it's like just listening to my boy, or like I like that he's laughing at himself, it's like he's part of it too. And it's like, yeah, you just want it like now, like the progression of what Louis was doing is such now that like everyone is almost they have to act like they're just hanging out, it's also I think the influence of podcasts where like the majority of comedians now have to have one, so you're like trying to replicate the like riffing style on stage. But like the downside of that is that you go away from having good jokes, like an actual punchlines, like you're
it's
just
like a vibe, like I know this guy's beats and how he speaks, so I know when I'm supposed to laugh, and also it feels like it's just kind of all of us hanging out in the room, even if that room is Madison Square Garden. It's like, it can be cool, and it's like I think even transitioning to more talk about the episode is like when seeing John do a bit that you've seen him do on a special. Here it's like, I want, like, this is kind of interesting because it's like when he's doing it in the theater for the special, he like the bit he does at the top is like I look like I was just sitting in a room eating saltines, and then he does the bit about like earning money while you're drunk, because usually you lose money, and just seeing him do that in this smaller space compared to like when you see it on the special where it's in a big arena or theater. I think that bit is on the top part though.
That's the opening bit on the top part, Black
and that is in a club, but he even does it different here. I think the top part is in a club.
In San Francisco.
I kind of thought this episode, in a lot of ways, it's such a Rosetta Stone for all of the issues and good things about this show. Like, there's so many moments that are interesting. Like, I thought the stand-up thing at the top was one of the better ones. Some of them were a little odd.
Yeah, I mean, my disappointment with it is more just like, oh, well, this is a bit I've seen him do before, and like it's a good bit. I like a lot. It's connected. It's kind of it is connected to the plot of the episode, but it is one of those things where it was very clearly like, all right, this is about me drinking, let me just put it in there, like there could have been one he wrote that is slightly more relevant, but I think it was also just like, whatever, well, instead of writing, I have this joke, let me do it, and it's a good joke, so who cares?
It's a good joke. This episode did not feel like it was about sobriety, but it was about
not at all.
Getting fucked up or getting on drugs or something. So I was like, okay, I can see the connection there. I think even what we were talking about just before getting more into the episode, like I think what's funny about that joke is I don't know if like, and obviously there's so many other elements here, but it's like if you went on stage and you did that joke now, I don't think it would work. And it's not just because you're doing someone else's joke, but there's just something about him being so in his element of that kind of style of performance, and him being himself and kind of having that sort of performance and the voice that he does it. Because, like, it is a great joke, but, like, the amount of times I've heard it and the amount of times I've, like, listened to, like, the top part and heard this bit and heard the reactions and now hearing it in a different context, like, that contrast is almost like it felt like to me, like, when I've listened to like an old Carlin record and it's like, okay, this is just like a weird bit about like the train, but then you get something else and you're like, oh, that's like really good. Like like it's a joke that's like one of Mulaney's best jokes, but it's so good because it feels like it's such a encapsulation of who he was at this moment in time, and this is like such a signature bit of like early Mulaney. And I don't even know if I appreciate it as like a joke anymore, more than I appreciate it more kind of like a time capsule of like, I remember being like a senior or a freshman in college or a senior in high school, hearing this bit for the first time and being like, wow. And then now when I hear it again, it's like, oh yeah, like I remember what I thought he was back then versus being like, to me today at 28 years old, what a great bit. I don't know.
Yeah, like it's almost like when a rock star enters their like veteran stage, Like, for example, James and I a few years ago saw The Strokes at Barclays Center, And, you know, I feel like both of us have had the experience of being in high school and discovering the Strokes for the first time, being like, wow, these songs. And then we saw them perform it live as 45-year-old men, and I was like, I don't know what this is anymore.
Yeah. It's weird. It does feel like that. It feels like I'm a 45-year-old dad in my garage being like, no, this is when the Strokes were good.
Yeah.
This is something else, you know. And then it's kind of just it's just odd. And there's like, I don't know, like so with this opening stand-up bit, because then we can move on to the plot of the episode, which has a lot in it. But I thought it was interesting because I don't know if I've seen, they do this weird side angle of him.
Yeah, I think maybe
see, like,
once
the
or twice.
crew in the background.
Yeah.
But they cut to it twice in this, where like it always felt like it was just head on, or it would be like the further away shot where you see the audience kind of sitting there. I was like, oh, this is interesting because it's like, this is weird. Like side angle stand up, you see like who I assume is like, you know, Seton Smith just standing up stage waiting to get on. But it was just an interesting little thing. I was like, okay, they're like still doing different shots and stuff. But the opening scene,
this was like the 6th episode produced, I think, so they were still like experimenting. But yeah. Opening scene. God, you know what I realized about this though? It's like, and I may have probably said this already, but this is a Disney show. This is like a Nickelodeon Disney show. Like it's in the way like the exposition dumps are like so craftless, in the way the acting is all people who this is their first acting job because they're 16, and like the way that there's like a very clear unironic moral to every episode, which you get when it's for kids and you're like, don't hit your brother. But this one, it's the same thing. It's like be yourself or whatever, you know, like it's okay to be, but it's presented without irony or like satire. Like they're not subverting it in the way I think they are. And also honestly, the acting in a lot of Disney shows better than this. Like
I think that's a fair point.
Yeah, like the main squad, not very good.
No, not good at all. And you see it when they're all together. It's just something's not clicking. It's just odd. And like I said, this is such a good example of so many of the issues of the show, but also the things I like. Like the opening scene, it's like Motif is calling a girl, and it sounds like he's telling her to get tested for STDs, but it's bed bugs. And I'm like, okay, fine, cool bit, whatever. I don't care. Like, but then John walks in, and he's on the phone, and he goes, well, we had such a good time the other night, but I think, you know, just to let you know, you should get tested for bed bugs. And he goes, oh, you have other Time Warner customers to talk to? And it's like, does he know who this person is? Is he pretending that the telemarketer is a woman to look cool to Motif? Or is he dating the telemarketer? Like, what does that mean? What is the joke?
I think the bit is that it's like a Time Warner cable person who came in to install their cable and is like, I'm calling you because you came in and we have bed bugs, you should get checked out. But it's like,
did not get that at all.
It's also, it's one of those things where like,
Time Warner? It's 2014? Like, I don't know, like say like, I don't know. Just don't do that because it's so specific.
I don't know. It's funny how, like we took, you know, however long of a break it was doing this. And so I've had this period of time where I was watching other shows and not Mulaney, and then coming back and I was like, man, this is just like it's just a key that like a different tone of like existence that I don't even know what it is. Like I watched Megadoc, which was a documentary about the making of Francis Ford Coppola's Megalopolis.
Oh. And
goddamn, I would love to see, like, I know it doesn't, but if they had something in existence that was about Mulaney, like, man, I would pay millions of dollars for that. Because the doc is like, because Megalopolis, I mean, this is maybe even more obscure because I don't think anyone saw that either, but you watched it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, it's one of those things where, like, it doesn't know what it wants to be, and it thinks that it's coherent. And, like, and the thing with Mulaney is it's like, it's trying to be a couple things, but by failing at all of them, it somehow makes it more bland rather than an interesting failure. Which is like the failure probably of this podcast too, is that when something's a boring, failure, it's not that interesting to talk about instead of something that explodes in stardom or something.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great example too, because that movie, the movie was like, it was like the experience of doing this podcast. It's like, oh, it's so much more interesting to have this as a cultural, like, totem to, like, talk about, like a piece of thing to talk about, than it is on its own. I mean, it's just much more interesting to discuss Mulaney versus the actual content of the show because it's just, like, incoherent. But there's like good bits still, like they're like talking, and it's like, how did we get like, oh, of course it was Mulaney that got us bed bugs, and it was like, oh, it could have been you or whatever, and it cuts to Motif having his online poker.
I thought that
crew.
was funny. Yeah,
that was like great because I'm looking around. It's like there's like a general.
Yeah.
Or like a dictator type guy. Yeah. There's a bald woman, 2 fat cowboys, a parrot, and they're like, oh, it's so fun to hang out with you guys. Just wish someone brought cards. It's like, all right, that is that's a tone of a show that I'm willing to accept. It felt like Family Guy. It was like a cutaway.
Very much so. Like, and a live action Family Guy could be interesting. Like there's episodes of like 30 Rock or Arrested Development that kind of feel like that. It's just that you're just stuck with so much other. Like lame plot developments of like John and Jane being like, oh, I feel like I'm a different person than I was in college. Like, I don't care, man. I really don't care. Especially when Jane's plotline is literally just racist. Like it's just like this is the moment where I was like even for me, who is not someone who is who thinks that your cultural background is something that you need to care about, assimilate, don't, it's all an individual thing. But even for me, I was like, man, I want to call my mom and ask her to go to temple or something, because this was the worst that it has ever been, I think, in the show.
We got to talk about Gagoosh. What are the odds that's a real Iranian name, dude?
Yeah, they didn't have... I mean, I guess Nasiba Dread is Iranian, so maybe she could have suggested... But I don't know, man.
So it's revealed that Jane is not her real name. She used to be Gagoosh. And throughout this course of the episode, it's like... I don't know, dude. Gagoosh is such an odd... tone. It's so weird. What is going on with Jane in this episode? The way she's basically because she can't be in the apartment, she can't constantly maintain her look, so she turns back into the person that she was. Right. Which is first of all, how many times is Jane gonna become a different person in season 1 of the show? And also what she turns into is an Iranian monster from a New York Post cartoon in 2005.
100%.
What is this? It's just weird. And also for the episode to be about drugs and the drugs not to influence and make Jane go back into it, it makes no sense that just because she doesn't have hairspray, she becomes Iranian. She wasn't. She's more ethnic or non-American. She's been hiding that the whole time. Weird.
It makes zero sense. Also, the fact that she has an accent doesn't make sense, because they've explicitly said she moved here when she was 2. So, you wouldn't have an Iranian accent? How you've just been pretending the whole time? And again, I hate to be the guy that's, taking the logic stick to sitcom jokes and plot lines, because ultimately, it's just to be funny. I get it. I don't actually care if this is realistic or not. But when it's not realistic and not funny and kind of offensive and really has nothing to do with anything in the show or any thematic relevance, then the only thing I have left to do is question the logic of it, because I'm I don't understand what it is that I'm seeing. No, I don't get what you're trying to say.
Yeah. It's just it's just it's not good enough to give it the benefit of the doubt. The whole show, it's just not good enough for me to give you the benefit of the doubt that any of this is well thought out, conscious. It just feels so clunky. There's another element of this episode that we can talk about later when that comes up that feels very clunky and not thought out at all, what the implications are, which is, we can talk about it now. John, I'll just say it. John is raped twice.
Yeah, he's raped twice, and this is
he's raped by Jane.
It
seems... And then by Andre.
Well, that's also the last joke of the entire series, is the reveal that under the influence of drugs, or John is under the influence of drugs, so is completely unable to consent.
And they all know that. Jane didn't know John was on drugs and whatever the flashback is.
But also what's crazy is Jane knew they had sex. John did not. John was I was attacked by a werewolf. Jane was yes, you and me had sex. I lost my virginity to you. And it's this is a crazy reveal. I don't think the show realizes what they're even saying. This entire time, Jane knew that she fucked John, and John didn't know that. This entire time she was aware that she raped her best friend and roommate, who she has weird sexual tension with sometimes, when the plot makes it convenient for it. And then the final joke of the entire series is the reveal that Andre raped John. Of the whole show.
That is the conclusion of the show.
The conclusion of the show. The last thing you ever leave us with on your sitcom is Andre walking up being best birthday ever. I just had sex with John and he didn't know it.
Dude, so I mean, we've said it many times, and I don't even think it applies here. We've said the show is so 2014.
Yeah.
This is just so poorly done, so not thought out. I mean, I'm not... Yeah, dude, I mean, I'm interested to talk to you. While I was watching this, I was thinking of your bit about changing your name at Starbucks.
Yeah.
Which I think is like a really great bit. And this episode kind of like reminded me of that, of like how Jane, like the character, I guess, feels some sort of social pressure to make herself more palatable to like white society or something. But it's like, the writer's room has no experience with this.
Right. The other thing is...
Gagoosh, dude?
Yeah.
Gagoosh. Like, come on.
The other thing is, it's like, there is something interesting to be said about that, right? Like, it's an interesting thing to explore of, like, immigrant identity, whatever. Even in the best intentioned version of the show, I don't think this show is the thing to do it, because it's about jokes. It's not about examining the American immigrant, plight or whatever. But also, it's like, the way you do that is by showing that, like, there's pros and cons to both, It's like, you can be a rounded person or a nuanced person. But in this portrayal... it's objectively a nightmare to be her version of Iranian. She's a monster. She's like an incomprehensible witch. So like, yeah, of course this is just objectively negative. And also, just in reference to the last thing, the moral of her arc is like, she realized losing her virginity to John was what like changed her. So like, what they're saying is, hey, it's gross to be like a brown immigrant. But if you rape a white boy, you can be cool and hot and American. That's her whole plot.
That is the arc of her in this show. That is like, not this episode. Is her arc is she rapes a guy to appropriate herself.
Appropriate American culture.
Like she like
what are you doing?
What is like John's dick gentrified her into like what like,
non-consensually gentrified her. He didn't consent to gentrifying her pussy.
I know, dude. Okay. Let's keep going through the plot because we could just talk about this forever, and it's gonna come up three more times.
So I think John's funniest moment in the entire show is when he's agreeing to go, like Oscar's agreeing to go with them to lose, and they have like a little back and forth about like, I want to go to college, and Elliot's like, oh okay, and John goes, rock out, man, and it gets a big laugh from the audience. And I was like, that's your best. Yeah, that was the best one, man. That was the best thing you've ever done.
Just a little quick aside that felt like a real person acting. It was like great. Because like then it's like, okay, Oscar's gonna do something to John that makes it again like someone else is going to like non-consensually affect John's life. Anyway, so basically the whole plot is they have bed bugs. They're gonna go stay with Jane's parents, but they decide because John is feeling insecure that he's changed since college. They're actually gonna go crash at Lou's place while Lou is out of town. And so, but of course, Lou returns early or whatever, and they pretend it's a surprise party. Okay, well, another point, just a quick side point. Peyote, like, that's not even, like, make it shrooms. Come on. Like, peyote's so weird. Also, peyote's, like, you go to, like, the jungle and do, like, a shaman-based ritual. Right. It's not, like, a party drug. You see the devil and you puke. Like, it's not, like, the thing they're trying to express, I'm sure it had to be peyote because of some sort of, like, it's obscure enough that it doesn't have explicit drug use or something. But, like... just imply it, but don't make it peyote because, like, I don't think anyone in 2014 knew as much about peyote as we know now. Right. So it's just like an obscure thing. Or it's not
as much of the conversation. Yeah.
Dude, because during COVID, like, fucking Chris Rock was having peyote parties at his house. Yeah. Like, he had comics come over and they all did peyote together. Ayahuasca. Sorry, I'm thinking of ayahuasca. Yeah. Well, like, peyote is...
You're right. It's also, like, it's just... I mean, this is a thing that I think everyone learns at a certain age... if you, like, go down the route of being interested in psychedelics or something, it's like, you're told from, like, media and stuff that, like, oh, if you take acid, you're gonna see crazy things. You'll be in, like, a world full of colors or something. And it's like, no, you take acid and then, like, maybe a carpet will move, but really you're just talking about, like, to your friend for 12 hours, You're just, like, really intensely... into something. Like, that's not
laughing,
you're laughing a lot. Like, that's not what any of these drugs do,
No,
like,
it's like when someone smokes weed in a thing and they're like, whoa!
Yeah.
Mad Men actually has, like, a decent weed scene in season 1. I'm rewatching Mad Men.
Yeah.
But, it's like John goes, or John Hamm.
Don.
Yeah. Don goes over to, like, his artist season 1 girlfriend, like, side piece. And they all smoke weed and he's just like, yeah. And he, like, looks in the mirror and he thinks about, like, his horrible childhood and he's like, I'm gonna go home. And like that's what
like,
weed is.
No,
It's
that's
not
100%
like
weed. Yeah.
whoa. It's
Yeah.
just like kind of like all right, we're good.
Yeah.
Like I'm
yeah.
just chilling.
I actually don't want to hang out. Actually, yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of the perfect weed
Yeah,
experience.
yeah.
It's just time to go home.
Yeah.
I keep thinking about my weird prostitute mom, whatever I forget.
Oh, yeah.
Because remember, he was like
yeah. You mean Don Draper? You weren't talking about yourself in that moment.
No, not my prostitute mom.
Yes,
my
yes.
prostitute mom. Hi, I'm
This summer on CBS.
summer, right between Mulaney and New Girl, my prostitute mom. So they're hanging out at Lou's apartment, and then Luke comes home early, and they pretend it's a surprise party with this really annoying bit that Oscar does in this episode, where he's like, Oscar.
Yeah.
What's that actor's name again?
Elliot Gould.
He really is not showing up in this episode.
No, I
at
wrote
all.
that down too. I was like, man, like I liked you for a lot of this show, and this is just not like you're what a sour note for me to leave you on.
Yeah, just odd. And so like he has all these bits about like, oh yeah, I was like a countercultural figure back in the day, and then like he's like, oh. He says surprise when Lou walks in, and they're like, why did you say surprise? He's like, well, I'm a part of this old way of thinking where you yell out how you're feeling out loud. And so Oscar throughout the whole episode goes like, pity, upset. Like he just keeps yelling his thing. It's like, this is just like not funny. You ever see that video where it's like this shitty movie, I forget what it is. It might have been like a Highlander sequel or something. But like the guy...
he yells disappointed.
Disappointed, and it was just supposed to. It was just formatted incorrectly in the script. That's kind of what the bit feels like, and it's not funny. Lou. First of all, the continuity is all fucked up because they moved around the episode. So like Lou is like, oh, you must be John's roommates. Lou's already met and gotten dinner with in several episodes. All of John's roommates. So and Lou's like, oh, you must be John's roommate, and then the Janie goes, oh, you're an old Greek widow, and it's like she is a very attractive young actress in glasses. Like,
I know.
How many steps into the past are we taking to make these jokes about Jade? Like Jade she's just wearing glasses.
I know. I mean, we the catchphrase of this show for us has been like Obama era. This is like early Bush era. This is like 9/12. They wrote this episode.
Yeah, it's like ridiculous that this is like any of these jokes are in here. Some of the editing at this party scene feels so weird. It feels like there's a lot of ADR.
100%.
Like maybe it was even more offensive, and they actually had to cut it down for some reason because there's like this sequence where like John is like. Motif, don't call that girl that you like and invite her over because you keep telling her that you love her. And Jane is acting weird, and Andre's here, and Oscar's here, and it's like, it's just edited so poorly that it just didn't feel right. But anyway, I kind of think that this one has too many things going on, where it's like, Oscar and Lou have conflict because they both want to be John's mentor. Or just Lou feels jealous that John might have another mentor. I think Rodeo was actually kind of funny.
Yeah, Natasha Leggero. I liked her. Yeah.
Motif like has this like toxic girlfriend. I don't really know why she's over there or like why she's involved, but like Motif invites this crazy. Yeah. And she's just like crazy, and she like finds a gun, and like all this like crazy shit happens. And it's like whatever.
I mean, it's definitely overstuffed, but you know what they clearly were trying to do is they're trying to go for like a farcical like Frasier-esque thing. You know, I was gonna say Arrested Development, but this is a multicam. But like something where like there's a bunch of different conflicts, and they're in one enclosed space, so they're all running around, and John's supposed to be like the straight man, the Michael Bluth, trying to like keep everything together until it reaches this climax, and then John's like, shut up, like I'm on drugs and I didn't actually come here for you, Lou, you know? Like that's what's supposed to happen. But it's just blocked and directed poorly. And also, ultimately, what this made me realize, I don't think John Mulaney is a good at story, at plot. Look at the best things he made. They were all bit heavy, and this could be bit heavy, but it's not because and the bits that are in it are not always great. Like every so often there'll be like a line like studying Judaism, the Jazz Age, or like cutting to that, you know, the 1 week ago with all of his poker buddies, like good solid joke that's in like the Mulaney style that I get. But then every so often then there's just other bits that are just lame and hack, like the Jane stuff or like the obvious gay jokes with Oscar and stuff, and all of it hinges on like comedic set pieces, and like plot construction, which I just don't think he's good at. Like Everybody's Lives, I think he's good at, but those are sketches. Like they don't require an internal like plot logic. You don't have to be a writer in that way. And I think with this proves that he's not. Like he's just not good at that. Like he's a good comedian, but that doesn't mean he's a good writer.
Right. Yeah. And I think that, I mean, there's plenty of story things that are clunky and strange because I don't know. They just go in circles on this episode where it's like Lou thinks it's a surprise party, and then John reveals he's on drugs, and Oscar's like, "Oh, he didn't know it was your birthday," and it's like, Oscar, you didn't need to say that. Like, there's all these things where it's like they're adding lines to make more conflict when it's like you have 5 conflicts. Stop complicating individual ones in ways that don't move anything forward. It just makes it go back on itself again. I think, there's just, I don't know. There's just like too much shit going on. I think they're going for it and they're not hitting it. They're all playing Truth or Dare and there's some bits in there that are fine. But the way that Jane reveals through Truth about when she lost her virginity, the first time she had sex, it's done so oddly and out of character. And again, Jane obviously needed to have been on drugs. Maybe that's something they cut out of it, because the way she's speaking and how revealing she is in this weird character, like regression back into who she actually is, it doesn't make sense just because she doesn't have hairspray. Yeah. And why she would choose this moment to reveal to John that she had sex with him. And she's just known that she's known
that it's been him, and he clearly does not know, and she knows that he doesn't know. So it's just mind-boggling. It's like, what's happening? Why?
Super weird.
Yeah, like, what are you talking about? How is this even decided?
And it has no weight. John's like, oh, we had sex.
Yeah.
And then it just moves on. It's like, okay, first of all, obviously, like we said, this is like not meant to be the final episode, but like, don't make it the final. Like, I don't know, this would have been so much weirder earlier on. It's clearly just thrown at the end versus being like a nice conclusion, because it's just like, why are they so chill about this like very light touching around them might having a romance that would blossom in a season 2 or 3, but like it's just,
made all the more weird just by like remembering that she raped him. Like, it's crazy. Like, there is this, someone pointed this out to me about like in I forget what James Bond movie it was, but there was a movie where like he's meets his girl at a casino and is like flirting with her, and she's like the henchman of the main villain, and she talks about how like she was like a sex slave, and you know it's all, you know, it was terrible, and she was like chained to him. And then the next scene is she's like, the very next scene is she's like in the shower, and like it's all hot and sexy, and then James Bond walks in and like they start fucking, and it's like, this clearly
Casino Royale.
Yeah, but it was like, this is clearly supposed to be hot, but literally right before this she was talking about like being a sex slave. So I'm not gonna, that's what I'm thinking about. I'm not gonna think about how this is hot for you too. And so that's what I'm gonna think about, like, you can't do a will they won't they when one of them raped the other. It's literally the Family Guy bit of like, she's a former model, he's a former rapist living in a fabulous life. It's like,
it literally
what are you
makes
doing?
the show that.
Yeah. And then the last joke of the show. Oh, I do want to say, I mean, we've been banging our drum about this, is stop making John Mulaney act. Have him just do dry jokes, which in this very episode he proves it. But like the very end when the peyote kicks in and he starts acting like he's on drugs, I'm like, man, I know you've done drugs. I know you've done drugs before. And yes, you can't necessarily channel that. But this is rough, dude. Like, come on, man. This isn't fun. It is just embarrassing. Like, oh. Yeah. It's just, like, worse than, like, a PSA from the 60s.
Yeah. My thought almost, too, was, like, this show keeps the camera so far away as a means to, like, so you're not so close to John seeing him be bad at acting. Yeah. But, like, when he's, like, feeling the drugs and we have to see, like, 3 other people in the shot, it's like... Yeah. In my head, I'm just like, just zoom in on him. Like, at least I don't have to see everyone react to his bad acting. It makes it so much worse. It's like when there's, like, an ugly friend and so everyone else looks hotter. It was just You know, there's some bits...
don't show me Martin Short in the same shot when I'm like, why isn't he the one in peyote? I would have enjoyed seeing that.
Like Lou, like Lou is kind of funny. It's like the drugs hit John, and he goes. They resolve the mentor thing. He's like, no, he needs both of us. Let's freak him out. You're gonna die. That's funny. Like, I think that's cool.
Yeah.
Lou is crazy. Lou's the best part of the show.
Yeah.
They let Martin Short
Bar
be like
none,
so
yeah.
funny. Like he just does great bits during the show. John wakes up the next morning and goes, "What happened?" And Lou goes, "You did things we will reveal to you slowly over the next few years."
That's exactly what life is as a drug addict.
Very funny, very cool. And also Lou is like, they're like, you know, Jane's like, "Oh, I'm all better now because I have hairspray."
Yeah.
Lou actually has a lot of women's hair products for a famous man. And Lou goes, "Famous men are women," which was very funny.
A great
very
joke.
funny.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
so fun.
Yeah.
And then, you know, Andre raped John.
And then Andre rapes John. And then end of show.
That's how the show ends.
That's
John's
how the show
raped
ends.
twice, drugged by his mentor and neighbor.
Yeah.
And then a motif is held at gunpoint.
Yeah.
And Jane, there's like a kind of racist plot with Jane. So that's how this show ends, everyone. Thanks for going through the journey with us. That was actually really unsatisfying. And kind of
although, you know what?
frustrating.
I think they must have known that this was the craziest one, because otherwise why do you hold it to the end? You know that no one's gonna, you know that the show's dead, and it's like, all right, we have to show this one. And if we had shown it at any other time, there would have been people who got really mad. But at this point, we know nobody's watching, so it's fine.
Yeah, man. I mean, sometimes it's like I think back on like Louis the show and like Horace and Pete and stuff, and like I kind of have had like not really the best opinion of Louis over the past couple of years, but also like through his content, I know he's like his conduct is not great, but like just the way he like talks about himself and stuff, and like sometimes the way he tries to justify things that he does in the show or Horace and Pete, it's like, but you're finding this way to justify this thing having happened in the show instead of like it becoming so, like you're justifying it in an interview right now because it didn't feel justified in the show in certain ways.
Right.
Like an example is like when he's like dating
Pamela Adlon. Yeah.
No, I'm thinking of Parker Posey. Is that her name? Is that her name, Parker Posey?
In Louis.
He's like in the show Louis. He's like dating the woman that works at the bookstore.
Yes,
and
Parker
then just
Posey.
randomly, like 2 seasons later, she just dies one night, and it's just like, but like, what was the point of this? And like, that's kind of how I get a feeling from this show is like, why, like, why did you? I guess my real point is like, why did we need to have John be raped, drugged, and then like there's a gun, and it's just like. Even if you justify it, why? Why do you think I would want to watch this as content?
Exactly. What are you trying to say? That's really the fundamental question of the entire show. What are you trying to do? What are you trying to say? I don't think they ever figured it out. And they ever had an answer for that.
I don't think they did either. I don't think they ever had a clear answer or understanding of what they were trying to say or do. And you know, in the moments that are good from the show are like bit parade, funny little side one-off jokes and scenes that kind of stand out. But, you know, I think next time we talk about it, we can kind of go over some of the parts that we thought were good and parts from... But I just found the whole thing kind of disappointing as like a poor exercise in like getting the opportunity to make a sitcom, getting your own show, and then choosing to do the things that they chose to do. I mean, this final episode is such a good example of that. Like, why? Why did you choose to make this show?
And I would have loved, like, thinking about it, it's like, I would have loved if, like, John was able to focus on just being, like, just like the joke writer, like just a guy coming up with funny things, you know? Like if he had like his Larry David, who like everyone talks about, he was the guy who like who first thought about like the different ways that plot points can like dovetail in Seinfeld, like the whole way comedically that kind of became a staple of the show. He was the one who did that. Jerry was the one thinking about funny ideas. Or even like you think about like other shows of that era where they pair the person with a writer who is like kind of a sitcom veteran, you know? Like I look through Mulaney's credits. I don't think he ever even wrote on a TV sitcom. He wrote on like Important Things with Dimitri Martin and SNL, and he had like a few other things. But I don't think he ever wrote on a sitcom before this. So he never really had that experience. If like Pie in the Sky, if they had like Greg Daniels as like the co-creator of the show, can you imagine? Like that could have been kind of incredible because they can play to... He knows how to play to different cast member strengths, you know, and create something that would have been watchable and interesting and like still reflective of the creators and this like titular star's voice and tone, but like not something that feels like it's bland on everything outside of it.
Yeah. I watched an episode of Roseanne recently.
Yeah.
And there's just so many jokes.
Yeah.
And this show doesn't do that.
It doesn't even do that. Yeah, because it's
Like,
trying
they're just
to,
talking. Roseanne, the episode I watched was the domestic violence episode.
Yeah.
And there's so many jokes, and it's the temperature of it is perfect. The way that, like, it's all handled completely fine. Off screen, all the violence happens, and they're kind of just talking and after the fact. But it's like they're just able to mesh those things so smartly. And it's like this just has none of that, and it could have never taken on a plot like that. It could have never taken on sobriety. It could have never taken on, having flawed mentors and stuff. Like Lou is too crazy to be someone that's relatable or interesting or disappointing because he's such a wild, weird figure. And like Oscar is so strange and like not accessible. His roommates are completely not being portrayed as like the sidekicks. They're also just like enemies to him, and also like conflict, and like John can't act or handle any of it, and the story sucks. So it's just like the whole thing falls apart, and you just find little bits of corn in this turd.
Yeah, and then and it's also just like a disconnect between like things are trying to explore apparently seriously, but then the tone of the show, which is like in its best moments Seinfeld or like maybe Always Sunny or something, but it's like if that's the tone of the world, then you can't have like a serious exploration of identity or like mentorship or sobriety or recovery. It's like, no, then those are also going to be jokes, but then if you're trying to approach them maturely, then all of it is fucking stupid. It detracts from both.
Oh no.
I think I lost you.
Oh no.